Zoe Laverne is a TikToker with 21.6 million followers and a page that has accumulated over 2.1 billion likes, and to this day she still gets around 1.3 million views a post. She's somebody who could be considered an OG, as in the early days of TikTok between the year of 2019 and early 2020, Zoe Laverne was one of the most popular TikTokers on the platform, competing with other well-known TikTokers such as the D'Amelios, and there was even a very famous clip that went viral around 2020 of where Zoe was breaking down because Charlie had overtaken her in followers.
I've been literally crying about this for like an hour because it's just so like pathetic that she just comes in and almost like she's so close to passing me, and everybody's reminding me that she's gonna pass me, and I just want to prove this that I am better than her because I am Zoe Laverne and I am literally the star of TikTok, and TikTok is putting me down and boosting her up, and I'm going to TikTok headquarters and strangle their neck.
Yeah, a lot of people like to say that the new generation of kids, the brain rot generation, are just fundamentally and absolutely cooked. But when you see clips like this, you can't really help but think to yourself, no, I think this is an all generation thing. Every generation of children is just cooked to a fundamental level, because what is going on here? But yes, as you can see, Zoe Laverne was a very famous and very popular TikToker with an audience of children that would do absolutely anything they could to speak to her, get her attention, and they would watch every single thing, no matter what it is, that Zoe posts. But talking of children, this actually does lead us into some dark territory, which is now the main reason that in 2025, people know Zoe Laverne. Because you see, in November of 2020, Zoe Laverne, at 19 years old, was exposed for grooming and kissing a 13-year-old fan. And this was something that was absolutely everywhere at the time. So many people were talking about this situation, including myself, and it's mainly because Zoe Laverne was such a famous TikToker that to see something like this was just absolutely pure insanity. The story got so viral that it was actually hitting mainstream news outlets who were talking about all of the things going on in this big controversy. And what's interesting is this wasn't a case of just regular allegations going around with no evidence, screenshots, or proof. No, this was a case of where it was a slam dunk. There was so much evidence that went round to do with this situation that Zoe Laverne just simply could not escape this. She was dubbed as yet again another TikTok predator, and seemingly this was the end of Zoe Laverne. And yeah, now we are in 2025. It's been around 5 years since this controversy really erupted, and I guess it does beg a few questions, such as, well, what actually happens to Zoe Laverne? Did Zoe face consequences? Did she even go to jail for committing heinous actions? Did she even maybe just lose her platform? No, it was none of those things. Yes, Zoe Laverne actually faced zero repercussions, and she is even to this day still posting content and getting millions and millions of views. And I'm not gonna lie to you fellas, this is genuinely one of the most confusing stories and situations I think I have ever seen. Because when I say that there was a plethora of evidence surrounding this situation, it wasn't just a plethora. There's not even a big word invented yet to describe how much evidence there was out there to prove that Zoe Laverne is and was a predator. But somehow, she has just shamelessly gotten away with everything and has continued like nothing has ever happened. And this is just one of the most confusing cases I've ever seen, because so many other influencers and celebrities have been exposed for the same thing, and yet they did face consequences. But Zoe Laverne, to this day, is just still there and posting. It's weird, it's crazy, but aside from that, you may be actually wondering, well, what are we doing here? I've covered this story in the past, so what, are we just doing a rehash? No, because recently there has been a development in this story. So allow me to introduce you to Connor, who actually is the victim in this story. You see, when this story originally took place, Connor was 13 years old, and now he is around the age of 18, which is quite insane to think because it's been 5 years since this story erupted, and he still is not at the age that Zoe was at when he was being by her. Zoe was 19 and he still has not reached that age. But yes, Connor has returned to social media and has made absolute waves in the process because what he did in his return was tell the story of what happened between him and Zoe, and in the process he has posted multiple receipts, multiple videos and multiple screenshots which ultimately just show that this story is somehow even worse than we originally thought. Because Zoe Laverne has not only gotten away with a heinous crime for the last 5 years, but she has gotten away from a police investigation, and overall, the things that we originally thought that she did are actually fundamentally so much unbelievably worse. So what I want to do in today's video is actually go through the original story as it was coming out in 2020 and explore it in a quick and concise manner to really allow you to understand the real context behind everything in this story. And then what I want to do is move into Connor's side of the story, his expose surrounding the entire situation. And with that and the original story in your mind, you will truly be able to understand how bad of a person Zoe Laverne is and why I am so flabbergasted that she has gotten away with this for so unbelievably long. And I don't say flabbergasted lightly, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, we're firstly going to get into chapter 1 or chapter 2, which is the original story of Zoe Laverne. And before we do that, I do just want to put a warning saying, yes, there are going to be a lot of sensitive things that we're going to go through in the next part of this video. I will be using words to get around YouTube's, system, and I kind of will be describing things very fleetingly and lightly. And I'm not obviously going to go into any gruesome detail because I actually want this video to be viewed by people. And before we do that, I do just want to put in a quick shameless request. Could you please like this video, comment something down below, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. But with that, let's get into the original story. So yes, the original 2020 allegations surrounding Zoe Laverne. Let's get into them. On October the 24th, 2020, a former friend of Zoe Laverne called Amber had her messages between herself and Zoe's ex-partner leaked. And in these messages, there is a lot of damning allegations directed towards Zoe Laverne. It starts off with a message stating, "I'm going to be honest with you in hopes that this stays between you and I." Well, as we know, that did not happen. "I'm going to be honest with you in hopes this stays between you and I because I genuinely don't know what to do. I left because of her interactions with Connor. Things got very intense and it's something that I do not stand by whatsoever." Then she describes the actions between Zoe and the child, and it goes on to say, "I have told Zoe that if she stopped and minimized contact with him, that she would not have to lose me and it didn't have to come to that. So she changed her story and said she was joking about the things with Connor. But I knew at that point she was lying, and they were both lying. Connor had reached out to me a few times apologizing about lying, and he knows that I didn't deserve to be lied to, etc., and assured me that they stopped, but Dawson just reached out to me yesterday and said they still FaceTime all day, every day, and have not stopped." So basically, what's going on here is behind the scenes, before anything has come up publicly, Amber, a friend of Zoe, and the other people surrounding Zoe have kind of realized that there is this very, very inappropriate relationship between a 19-year-old and a 13-year-old. But then after that, it goes into moving into talking about more personal drama, which I don't really think I need to go through. But then we get into the final message where it goes back to the original topic stating, "I know that I'll heal and I'll be alright mentally because of the support system I have here at home. Where I'm most worried about is Connor, because right now he won't understand because he's so young, but 10 years from now, he's going to look back and say to himself, I was R-worded, or because in all honesty, that's what it is." And yeah, I think the most tragic part about that message is It wasn't 10 years, it wasn't even 5 years. From what you're going to see in recent developments, the victim, Connor, in this situation realized very, very shortly after what took place that what was going on was wrong, and yet Zoe manipulated him in the best way that she possibly could into staying quiet and into lying to everybody, and that is how she got away with this for so unbelievably long. Now, at the time, these messages went absolutely viral, but of course, at this point, they were just allegations. There was no evidence to really support this. Connor hadn't said anything yet, and people on TikTok were just going through these messages and speculating around the information surrounding it. And within the public eye, there seemingly being no real evidence to back these claims, Zoe actually was surprisingly confident in combating these allegations. You see, she actually went on to a live stream where she was pretty much just flat out denying everything. And in hindsight, it is genuinely quite hilarious to hear some of the things that she said in this live stream.
I don't know where this screenshot came from. I don't know if Amber actually sent it. I don't know if it's photoshopped. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it was said, whatever the case is. But I am here to tell the truth and tell you that I am 19 years old and I know better than to do anything with a 13-year-old minor. My career is set on minors. I have little kids that look up to me on a daily basis. Yes, maybe in my past, I've done things that is not very mature to do in front of minors and, vaped whatever in front of them. If that was the case, that was the case, etc. But the fact of people saying that one of my best friends that was a supporter of me for 3 years is unacceptable, is disgusting, makes me sick to my stomach, literally makes me want to throw up. I can't even imagine. Can't even ever imagine doing something like that, considering I know what's right and wrong.
So yeah, obviously, she's very confident here. She's very confident in shutting these things down. It's all rumors, it's all drama, it's all just a bunch of toxicity on the internet until 3 days later. Because you see, Zoe had a private Instagram known as a Finsta, and on that page, a few things leaked. And well, honestly, I can't really show what leaked directly because I'm not really comfortable in providing the evidence of what was going on here, but these clips are all over the internet now. They're in multiple articles, there are multiple YouTube videos. I'm trying to present this in a way where this video doesn't get age restricted, but basically, the things that got leaked from this Instagram were edits that Zoe had seemingly made herself of her and the 13-year-old victim embracing each other, being very close with each other, and most importantly, kissing each other. I'm not joking, this was actually on this Instagram account, and Zoe had been flaunting this proudly and seemingly been posting like her and Connor, the 13-year-old, were in some form of extremely disturbing relationship. But yeah, as I said, I'm not going to share these clips, but as you can see here, they definitely went viral at the time. Accounts were even being created called The Downfall of Zoe Laverne, and people were even pointing out that the victim was so young in this case that his voice had not even dropped, which is obviously so incredibly disturbing. And I've read a few comments that we'll get into later of people being like, I have a younger brother that's the same age that Connor was then, and it's horrific to think that someone of Zoe's age could even be attempting to engage in those activities. It's just so disturbing, and when you really think about it, it does just kind of bringing the sheer insanity that she has managed to get away with these heinous crimes. And yes, let's not sugarcoat it. What has taken place here is certainly a crime. And I know I'm jumping ahead in a timeline here, but it is just so wild that she got away with it, but also still shamelessly shows her face on social media. But what makes it even more bizarre is that at the time of this controversy erupting and getting spoken about by more and more people, Zoe's mother launched a defense of her daughter's actions, telling people to stop, where you can see these quotes here where she says, anyone can reach over and kiss someone. They're best friends and this needs to stop, you guys. Why are you doing this?
Anybody can reach over and kiss somebody. They're best friends, and this needs to stop, you guys. Why are you doing this?
Well, Debs, we're doing this because your daughter deserves to be in a jail cell. And I think what makes this particularly disturbing is you have an adult woman, a mother of a child, who I understand wants the best for her child, but surely she should think if someone ever tried to do this to her child when they were that age, they would be repulsed, disturbed, and would do anything to protect their child. And now when it's happening to another child, she's defending the criminal in this situation.
And don't believe everything you hear.
It's outstanding in the worst possible way. This person should be outright and absolutely ashamed of herself. But no, she has launched multiple defenses of Zoe Laverne, and it's just so hard to understand why. Over the years of the drama sphere on social media getting more and more popular, getting more clicks surrounding it, more money coming into it, the terminology of predator and groomer has been thrown around quite a lot, and in some cases in ways that are absolutely should not be, but this is not one of those cases. What we have here is fundamentally, to the dictionary definition, a predator that has taken advantage of their position of power and used it in the most disturbing way possible. Now, thankfully, at the time, most people on social media saw what Zoe's mother was doing as just an absolutely heinous thing, and Zoe was inevitably just dubbed as another TikTok predator. And I guess it does just beg the question of, well, what was Zoe's response now? Because we've seen her get onto social media and staunchly defend herself and try to debunk things, but now there is actually evidence. So what did she do? Well, she ran away. Yes, following backlash, Zoe Laverne deleted her Instagram account and then went onto her private Instagram, ZLPFandom02, which apparently is some form of account where all of her most dedicated fans will follow Zoe for the more private and personal interactions. Now, I've seen this sort of thing in the past with these types of stories, but it's usually not a private Instagram account these, fans go to. It's usually an island, and people go... I'll move on. But yes, on this account, Zoe was speaking to her most dedicated fans, and she said, "Thank you for everything, really. But for right now, I don't think I'll be back on social media again. I have a lot to think about. I really don't want to leave you guys, but I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of crying and hurting. It's nothing but negativity to me anymore. I love you so much." So yes, she was running away from her responsibilities. She was running away from the criticism, but more importantly, she was doing something which she will do for the rest of her career, and that is try to shape her as a victim. The focus on crying and negativity, it's honestly quite embarrassing, but I can see what she's doing here. She's trying to make this into some form of victim narrative where she is also a victim of, I guess, the social media hate train, which is, one of my favorite textbook things that influencers that are caught in controversy, they love to do this where there's obvious criticism facing them and we all understand why they're facing that criticism, and rather than face it head on and rather than explain their actions and apologize, they say, oh, social media is so toxic and negative. And it's like, okay, maybe rather than question the people who are being toxic to you, question yourself and ask the question of why are people being toxic and negative towards you right now, Zoe Laverne? Is it because you were caught engaging in illegal activities with a 13-year-old fan? Because that might be it. But yes, with these seemingly proven allegations circling and so many people speaking about this once famous TikToker, people started to ask the question, now Zoe had run away, of had she been arrested? What was going on? And was this really just the end of Zoe's career? Could she now be in a jail cell? Well, sadly, as you already know at this point, no, that did not happen. Because shortly after running away, Zoe could not help herself and she returns to her private island stating, "Hello, I know that there are a lot of you disappointed in me, and you have every right to be. I will address this as soon as I can get my Instagram back. I can't get back into it due to my number being changed, and I would like to say that I am aware of what leaked. But Connor was not, and I'm changing the word here, but he was not SA'd. But yes, we did kiss. Now, immediately, what Zoe is trying to do here is again change the narrative surrounding this situation, because she says here that yes, there was no form of, well, it does say the R word, but no form of SA, but the reality is in law, unwanted kissing is a form of SA. And in terms of the context of who Zoe was kissing, it was a 13-year-old child and Zoe was a 19-year-old adult. And if there's something that I think we all know, is that a 13-year-old child cannot consent, and therefore, in legal terms, what was going on here was unwanted kissing, therefore, that would be deemed as SA. So what Zoe is saying here is ultimately just a complete lie, and she has absolutely, don't get it twisted, committed a crime. And again, I know that I'm repeating myself here, but it is just so bewildering that the police did not do anything in this situation. There was no legal repercussions whatsoever, despite there being a mountain of evidence directed towards Zoe in this situation. But yeah, getting back into it after this, she says that they never had a relationship, but she actually does confirm that they did catch feelings for each other after being so close. She then kind of defends herself by saying that these videos were from months ago and we both realized that it was so wrong and we both cut it off. Now, this is genuinely so outrageous for multiple reasons, but the main one being, obviously, she is just outright self-reporting here. Like, why would you admit to these things? It's only just more evidence of everything that has been said about you. But another thing to note here is that she keeps using the word we. She says, we did catch feelings for each other, and, you know, we realized that it was wrong, and we both cut it off. Now, the reason that she's doing that here is because she's also now trying to manipulate the audience into thinking that the victim in this situation is also somehow in the wrong by using the words of we. She's trying to kind of make them a group collective, when the reality is there is only one person wrong here, and that is Zoe Laverne. But it is an incredibly manipulative tactic, which honestly has probably worked, considering she is still somehow getting millions of views on her TikTok page. And that's just so messed up when you consider the fact that he had only just become a teenager. He was a child, and Zoe at the time was 1 year, or well, less than a year off from her 20s. She then says that this was not meant to be on social media and that she's sorry that you had to see it, and in brackets puts, I removed people that left or that I thought would be rude to me, which in short basically means that she was removing people that were criticizing her, and rightly so. So instead of being rude in the comments, please just understand what I have wrote. Thank you. Connor and I have had no communication for 3 days now. We are still friends, but we think it's best to stop talking and work on each other's mental health and spend time with our families. Now, what's crazy about this is if you read it without any context whatsoever, you would think that this is like some form of press release where a celebrity has been caught cheating on their partner, and now they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna focus on each other's mental health and we're gonna spend time with our families because that's the right thing to do. But the reality is what she's talking about here is her a 13-year-old child. This isn't some big TikTok celebrity drama. This is a very serious thing that she is trying so desperately to change and spin the narrative to almost make this look like some form of normal thing. And I think honestly, that is so unbelievably disturbing. And I have said in the past that I don't think Zoe is taking this situation seriously, or she doesn't seem to understand the sheer gravity of the situation. But I actually take that back now. I think she absolutely does understand what's going on here. She does understand the sheer gravity and weight of the situation. But she's just a terrible person. She is fundamentally an evil person. And I think that it only is proven when you look at her next posts of where she came back very shortly after the post that we just went through. Because yes, Zoe did make a return to TikTok, and the return actually seemingly went down well in terms of numbers. And when you look at the return posts, it's just so crazy. Because as you can see in this jokey post here, she states, me coming back to TikTok after I got cancelled for the 100th time. I mean, this is just fundamentally one of the craziest and most wild posts I think I have ever seen. You were not cancelled. You were exposed for committing one of the worst crimes you could possibly commit. This post right here is such a manipulative way to spin the narrative, because once again, she is also trying to shape it like she's a victim, stating that she was cancelled, which is another thing that so many people love to do when they're exposed for some heinous actions of, oh, I was cancelled by the woke mob, guys. And it's like, no, you were called out for messaging kids. And again, she's stating here that she was cancelled, but look at the views. Look at the views she's getting in 2025 after all of this. If cancel culture really exists, how is Zoe Laverne still on social media with 20 plus million followers and still has a career? But insanely enough, it doesn't end there. Because with that response, yes, there was a lot of people out there that were still supporting Zoe, and ironically enough, that's probably because she had a child audience who didn't really understand right from wrong. But obviously, there were people like myself and other content creators who were calling out Zoe and were using their platform to call out these heinous actions, and that led to Zoe getting onto multiple live streams where she called out the people criticizing her. Now, firstly, I just want to show you a few clips that I found from an old Jay Aubrey video covering this topic of where I'm just going to allow Zoe to do the talking and to do her defending. Because what you're about to see is one of the most manipulative things that Zoe could have possibly done, and that is use the testimony of her own victim to deflect from these allegations.
Hi everyone. There was no interactions between me and Zoe. I don't know where that was coming from. I don't know if the texts were photoshopped, if what was the case, whatever.
Yes, I realize that I'm not saying that I didn't do anything wrong, because I know I did something wrong and I know it was wrong. They're decisions, not mistakes. Okay. All right, you're probably like 5.
Ironic.
So let me explain to you something really quickly. Mistakes made by decisions you make. Okay. No one, anyone even told you guys that didn't happen, yet you still use that.
Now, for me personally, this is one of the most disturbing things that I think Zoe has done throughout this entire story. Because what she's saying is that, yes, Connor even told you that these things did not happen. But the reality is Connor only told us these things because he had been manipulated. He was a 13-year-old child who did not know right from wrong. He probably, or definitely, did not understand to the full context of what was really going on here. And Zoe used those manipulated words as a way to defend herself. And it really does just show how despicable this person is. She couldn't say sorry. She couldn't just come onto her platform and apologize. Instead, she lied to us all multiple times. She lied about the situation and even manipulated and got into the head of her victim even further as a way to desperately get away with her heinous actions. And now, whilst I said that things were originally going pretty well for Zoe, her audience were still accepting her and watching her TikToks, it was very obvious that this was not going to last for much longer. It was very obvious that the adults were actually going to come in, put the pieces together, and just kind of come to the conclusion that yes, this is a predator and something needs to be done. So Zoe responded yet again. Because yes, she jumped onto another live stream where she defended her actions. No, she didn't really apologize. She just basically let the world know that everything that was being said about her is absolutely fundamentally true, and yes, she is a predator. And the live stream starts off with Zoe, once again, rather than taking any accountability, blaming everybody other than herself.
Oh my god, there's a lot of people in here. Okay. So I wasn't going to address this situation until Connor and I had communication to talk so we could both go live together and talk about it, but he, I'm pretty sure he's gonna go live probably after he sees this, if he sees this. So if he's on here, pretty sure he'll go live and address the situation too. But as you guys all know, some stuff got leaked about me and Connor, and I just wanted to come on live and tell y'all the truth and tell y'all that, a lot of people are making this out to be something that it's not and making it to be worse than it seems.
Zoe, I would still, even in 2025, love an explanation on how you as a 19-year-old kissing a 13-year-old being blown out of proportion. I would really like you to explain to us how this is being made out to supposedly be worse than it actually seems. Because from my perspective, this is one of the worst things that I've ever seen on social media. So I would love to hear your explanation.
I just wanted to come on here and let you guys know that I didn't groom Connor, wouldn't do that to him, literally love Connor to death. I wouldn't do anything to Connor ever without consent. Connor and I both consented to kissing. That was how it went. We both liked each other, and then we realized that the ages were too different. Nothing happened between us besides kissing, and I'm saying that now. I'm really sick of people thinking that we did other stuff besides kiss.
So not only is Zoe incredibly evil, but she is also fundamentally just, well, and look, YouTube TOS, I'm not being mean or bullying here. I'm just making some analysis because, well, she is stupid. Like she's dumb. Why would you admit these things? Because what she just admitted here, ladies and gentlemen, is a crime. Because a 13-year-old in the United States of America cannot consent to these types of activities. And you, an adult, have taken advantage of that child who could not consent. Which, word for word, dictionary definition in law, is a crime. So again, I'll say it for a millionth time, I don't understand how she has gotten away with everything when she word for word has admitted to the things that she has been accused of here. She's just defended it with, oh, we both consented, which in US law does not make any sense. You cannot have a 13-year-old consenting to these actions. So fundamentally, she is just admitting to a criminal action. And you have to just start to ask questions of why. Why have the police done nothing? Now after this, Zoe goes on to make further defenses of her terrible actions, and the main one being of, oh guys, this happened months ago. Like that's any form of valid defense.
I just wanted to come on live and let you guys know that it stopped months ago. It hasn't been a thing for a while now. Connor and I don't have communication right now due to our parents both agreeing to cut our contact and give us both time to heal and from social media, because social media is very toxic to us right now. And we're both just kind of hurting. We're trying to laugh off the situation because we both realized back then that it was just not right and that the ages weren't appropriate.
Now firstly, let's be real here. What she's trying to do here is once again create a victim narrative. Because yes, she speaks about how she's hurting and trying to heal, and social media is just so sad and unbelievably toxic. And again, I'll ask you the question of why is social media being toxic towards you? I am so sick and tired of hearing these influencers complain about toxicity when the toxicity is absolutely justified. But also, now, let's talk about her defense here, where she's stating that, oh yeah, this was months ago, and that's apparently a good form of defense.
It stopped months ago. It hasn't been a thing for a while now.
Look, let's be so for real here, people. I do not care. I do not care that this was months ago at the time, and honestly, if we were 5 years in the future now and this was 10 years ago, I still would not care. What you have done here is a criminal action, and from what we're going to get into later in this video, you have damaged a young child. You have possibly ruined their life. You have done so many heinous things that will impact this victim for the rest of their life. So excuse me if I do not care that this took place 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, or last week. I am here to say that you should be in jail. But then after this, it just continues to get even more bizarre as she seemingly starts to blame her depression on, I guess, everything. And look, I'm going to be the first person in history to say, I don't care. I don't care that you have depression. I don't care. I don't care. And my neighbors probably heard that and they're like, Jesus, what's he talking about?
And because social media is so toxic nowadays, and because people like to put their little noses into other people's business, it makes it worse than it needs to be. So I'm here to tell you guys right now that this all was dragged out of proportion and put into something that it was not. People have so many rumors going around saying different things, and it's none of the stuff that people are saying is true. I didn't Connor, wouldn't do that. He's a kid and I'm aware of that, and it just happened. We both were in a dark place when we first became friends, and we both just ended up catching feelings for each other. And friends do that. They catch feelings for each other. That's not a bad thing.
We were both in a dark place. Please shut the fuck up. This is such I'm not trying to be the woke police here, but this is such a disrespectful thing to say to anyone that has any form of mental illness. I was in a dark place. I'm sorry, but when someone's in a dark place, they can't get out of bed. I don't know. They struggle at washing, brushing their teeth. They maybe comfort eat. They cry. They're sad. They don't fall in love with a 13-year-old child. So sorry if I don't take this as some form of valid excuse. And I'm sorry if it sounds harsh to say this, but I don't care if you were depressed or if you were in a dark place. I'd rather you be in a dark place in a prison cell, quite frankly. Now, what makes this even better is in recent times, Zoe has continued to post about being depressed. This was posted around 2 days ago at recording this video. And also in April of this year, she claims that she was diagnosed with BBD and bipolar. And to kind of jump ahead in the timeline, there has been rumors for a long time that the victim in this story is going to come out eventually about all of the information that we don't really know about and tell his side of the story. So to me personally, sorry to sound like a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I see these types of posts and think to myself, it's very obvious what you're doing. You're laying the groundwork of, oh, I've got depression, I've got a mental illness. And it's like, yeah, so many other people out there have got a mental illness. It doesn't mean that they can legally get away and justify their criminal actions. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way. And I'm pretty tired of people using whatever diagnosis to get away with some pretty heinous shit. Maybe take some responsibility, maybe own up to your actions, and maybe just realize that you are the problem in this situation. Don't go around disrespecting people that actually have valid mental health diagnoses who do not use those diagnoses as a way to escape genuine criticism. It's disrespectful and it's outright disgusting, to be honest with you. But then, hilariously enough, in a worst possible way, she then goes on to deny being a predator and states that, yeah, she is an adult, but don't we all have to learn from experience? And I'm like, you're really a bad person, aren't you?
But because, like I said, it got brought to social media, people are making it such a big issue. I'm not a I'm not, and I will continue to say that. I don't care what anybody has to say. I'm not a I am 19 years old. Yes, I am labeled as an adult, but I am still a teenager. And we all mess up and we all do things that we don't know, but we have to learn from experience. And I know that I'm not the only person that has been put in this position before. And the only reason why I've been put in this position is because of social media making it out to be something that it's not.
I'm confused. I'm sorry if I'm laughing, but it is just an outright bizarre thing for her to say. Are you saying that your social media use made you kiss a 13-year-old and make edits of that and post it on your private Instagram? Because I don't think that's a thing. To be honest with you, I don't think that's a symptom of overuse of social media. I'm just so confused about what she's saying here. Are you hearing what you're saying here, Zoe? Is this a thing? I don't really understand it. Fellas, I'm not gonna deny it. I've probably got some sad bastards in my audience with a 9+ hour average screen time on a day-to-day basis. Look, I'm judging you right now, but I don't think that 9+ hours of them scrolling TikTok to feed their brain rot has actually led to them committing a heinous crime. It's not a correlation, to be honest with you. There's no correlation there. Like, do me a favor. Do you have a social media addiction? If so, go into the comment section down below and comment beans if that social media addiction or phone addiction has not led to you committing a terrible, terrible crime. I'm trying to do an experiment here, people. I really want to learn, is this a direct correlation? Because if it is, I think we need to delete social media. But yeah, after this, she goes on to defend her actions even more by stating that she was going through a lot and needed happiness. And again, it's not a justification, let's be honest here.
I wasn't in the right state of mind. I was going through a lot, and I really just wanted to find happiness. And I really just wanted to be happy. And Connor was my best friend, still is, even though we can't talk. He's still my best friend, and he made me happy in many different ways, and I made him happy in many different ways. We both were really close and caught feelings, and we didn't really understand what was going on. And even though people will say well, you're old enough to realize it's wrong, I just wanted to be happy. And it's not an excuse, and I'm not trying to make excuses about it. It's just me telling the truth and how I felt. And I just didn't know what else to say and know what else to do.
I mean, probably delete your social media and then shortly and promptly hand yourself into the local police station. Now, the rest of the apology is pretty much just her basically saying that, yeah, I guess it was bad, but I mean, not really. And then she also then goes on to get the cat out, and yeah, this is just the traditional influencer apology of, oh, guys, I'm really, really sorry, I've done something bad. Well, I'm not also sorry, but kind of sorry, but also here's a cat. Isn't this cute? But yeah, overall in 2020, when I first saw this apology defense live stream, I did think to myself, haha, yeah, this is definitely the worst thing that I've ever seen on social media. And honestly, 5 years later, there hasn't really been much that has matched this. This still, to this day, is one of the worst things I think I've ever seen an influencer do. But what's interesting is after the media frenzy surrounding this situation, after all of the criticism and people going after her, the videos made about her, you would feel like Zoe Laverne's career would be over here. She would never show herself on social media ever again. She would go to jail. Some form of consequence would happen. But no. Zoe never faced any repercussions. She never faced any consequences. And as I said multiple times, she just continued to post on social media and, funnily enough, continue to get into more controversies. And even a year later, in 2021, Zoe actually gave birth to her first child. So yeah, things were actually going pretty peachy for her, which just makes me sad to know, to be honest with you. And even after that, she was involved in more controversy of where she was caught charging $15 for her fans to see exclusive photos of her newborn baby. I mean, this woman has absolutely no shame whatsoever, and it really does just show that there is no limit to what Zoe will do to maintain her relevance and to make a little bit of money. Now, moving a bit further ahead in the timeline to October of 2021, I actually uploaded a video that month titled, "This TikToker is a Predator with 21 million followers." And in that video, what I do is go over the fact that Zoe has clearly not learned from this situation and that she has obviously gotten away with everything. And that led to a point of where Zoe was seemingly getting a little bit egotistical, seemingly actually starting to combat against people that would dare to criticize her.
All the people that come into my life and say, oh, I've changed, I swear. You know how they do. I won't expose you. I'll let you speak your mind and speak your opinion and it'll stay between us. Never again is that happening. You're never gonna be trusted again. And that's your stupidity and that's your mistake. So you can live with that and you can just realize that it's never gonna happen again. So this is only to a couple certain people, so don't think this is directed to everybody, but don't be trying to come back to my DMs months down the line saying I'm sorry and that I've changed because I'm not gonna reply.
Yeah, this definitely doesn't seem like somebody that's taken any responsibility for her actions whatsoever, and if anything, this seems like someone that is actually trying to create a narrative once again that she is in the right and everyone else is in the wrong, and how dare they criticize her. And yeah, this kind of brings us to the current day, the current timeline of 2025, at least before May and April of 2025. Zoe was fine. She had her family, she had her new child, she was getting millions of views, and from what it seems, she was still a full-time social media influencer, which is just so ridiculous to see and think. But obviously, as you and I know, that did not last, because yes, the victim in this story came out with what actually really truly happened behind the scenes. So yes, 5 years after the original situation, Connor has now gotten to the age of around 18 years old and has finally found the courage to address this situation and let everyone know what truly took place. And at the time of recording this video, there are 2 TikToks that he has posted where he has explained his side of the story and also provided a large amount of screenshots. And personally, after watching these 2 videos multiple times, I think what really stood out to me is just how much worse Zoe Laverne is than we originally thought. Like, some of the things we see in these videos, some of the things that he tells us about, we really had no idea about in 2020, and it does just give us a whole new perspective, but also confusion around how Zoe Laverne managed to get away with everything for so long. So what I want to do now is go through these 2 TikToks and just see what really took place here, and also what the screenshots really prove. Now, the first TikTok is Connor giving a personal retelling of the events and just in general letting us know how horrific this really all was. And yeah, we're going to go through that now, and I did just want to give a bit of a warning and state that some of the clips that they will be playing are very detailed, but also I will be playing a large amount of the clips, so this could be a little bit of a long segment where I'm not talking, but I wanted to show you guys the full context so you can really understand what's going on here. And that starts off with Connor being very honest and letting us all know that there have actually been a lot of lies spread about Zoe Laverne, but also the main story in this situation is not a lie, and he definitely is a victim.
My name is Connor, and at the age of 13, I was statutory R-worded by a popular TikTok influencer. This happened 5 years ago, and I'm sure that a lot of you are familiar with the situation, and it's taken me a while to come to terms to talk about it. I do want to start off by saying that a lot of the things that you see on the internet of people coming out saying that they were also victims of Zoe, or also that they were involved in the situation in any sense, trying to claim that they underwent any sexual or romantic through her, are completely false. One thing I won't discredit is her being inappropriate on the phone with other minors, saying inappropriate things, or let alone just manipulating other children. But I can confidently say that the extensivity that it got to with me, it has been with just me and no other children. It's taken me a very long time to talk about this solemnly because of the backlash I have received from the media, because I still am in high school and I still am a minor. But third of all, because I was trying to press legal action against her, and I didn't want my case to be tampered with due to my social media posts.
Now, I think this is a very appropriate and respectful way to start this all off. Immediately dispelling the fake information out there about Zoe is obviously very important, mainly due to the fact that Zoe could definitely use the false allegations as a way to kind of flip the story. I've seen this happen quite a lot out there, in particular with James Charles, when originally in 2020 he was facing allegations. A big thing that he liked to do was be like, oh, there are all of these fake allegations out there, and therefore that means that these things, I guess, aren't valid or something like that. And it just really led to a bit of a confusing situation of trying to work out what's real and what's not real. So dispelling everything here and just getting to the point of what is real, I think is fundamentally very important. But yes, after this, Connor then gets into explaining how he actually originally met Zoe. And as I said earlier, it came down to the fact that he, at the age of 13 years old and when Zoe was 19, was a fan of her, and they actually met at a fan meetup, which honestly makes this seem a lot worse. I mean, I know it's already as bad as it can possibly get, but somehow it's slightly worse by the fact that she met him at a fan meetup.
For starters, I was a fan. I did join her fan base in like 2018. I had a fan page and everything. And I went on a tour stop in Washington, D.C. in 2018 to meet her for the very first time. Now, at the time, there was a lot of other influencers on this tour. We went to solemnly take pictures. Like, it was for fans to meet their favorite creators. Now, over the time of 2018 to 2019, she would talk to fans that I ended up becoming friends with. We had mutual friends, and I was then introduced to her through, she added me on Snapchat, and we would talk every now and then. It was all kept to a normal, cordial level. Now, in August of 2019, she had a tour stop in my hometown that I went to, which I went with two of my friends. And after the show, I was talking with her. She brought me upstairs to see the venue. It was more of a secluded thing from the rest of the people that were there to attend. I also attended another one in December of 2019. So by the third time of me meeting her in person, she knew who I was just based off of seeing me. Now, in 2020, I still was keeping it going with this fan page, and I had a lot of mutual friends that talked to her, and we would all FaceTime and group FaceTimes, but slowly it started sectoring off to just private FaceTime calls between the two of us. In April of 2020, things did start to get a little more personal. It was causing issues between her and her ex-boyfriend, Cody. He was concerned about things, all of that. Now, my birthday is on May 10th, and at the time, it was COVID, so I was having a drive-by birthday party past my house. My mom had reached out to Zoe to see if she'd be able to make it out here because she knew how much I had idolized her and thought it would make my whole birthday if she was able to come here to surprise me. It didn't end up working out, and she came out here on Memorial Day, which was only like a week or two after my birthday, and things were a little uncomfortable for the time being, but everything was normal. Now, it was about 2 weeks later, the first week of June, when her and her ex-boyfriend had broken up, and she was in Tennessee at the time with her friend Amber, which then they both drove out here instantly to come visit me.
Now, immediately, for me personally, this is where the problems begin. Because I just have to ask the question of why is a 19-year-old driving out to meet a 13-year-old? There is no reason for this connection. It wasn't like they were related or family, friends, or something on those lines. And honestly, I think this is just completely inappropriate. Even regardless if nothing actually took place, I just think this type of friendship should not have been happening. There are multiple power dynamics here. The age, the fan aspect, the financial aspect, and just in general the emotional intelligence aspect. Zoe would have been a grown adult. This was a child with no life experience. She could do what she wanted to do and get away with absolutely anything because she could simply manipulate a fan into doing what she wanted, which now, sadly, we know she absolutely did that. And yeah, it is pretty dumbfounding to me that this was even allowed to take place. Like, I don't understand why nobody stepped in. I understand that Zoe may have been lying and manipulating the situation, but at the same time, I feel like someone, a parent or an adult, should have stepped in and realized what's going on here is absolutely not right. And yeah, it led to this.
Now, I was under the impression that they were only coming to visit for a week, but because they had both just gotten fresh out of relationships, they both made the decision to move here for a fresh start. Now, prior to her coming and visiting me, she did discuss with me on the phone that she liked me. I thought she was messing around. I thought it was just a funny little prank. She told me that she liked me and that when she came to visit me in May, she wanted to hold my hand. She wanted to, kind of be more intimate. Now, at the time that she had came here, I had just turned 13, maybe a week prior. I had a very close friend group at the time that I would talk to, that I had voiced about being a little uncomfortable with the fact of knowing that she liked me and her still coming here. But I was under the impression I only had to see her for a week, so I was in fear of, if anything were to go wrong, I only have to deal with her for a week and I can move along and not speak to her again.
Again, I'm honestly just really confused at how a 13-year-old and a 19-year-old, a very, very rich and famous 19-year-old, were allowed to have a friendship like this. Regardless of intentions, regardless of if anything happened or didn't happen, I just don't understand how this was allowed to happen. How did the parents in this situation not see these inappropriate actions and step in? It's absolutely crazy, and I know Connor may not want to hear it, but personally I feel like Connor was very much let down by a large amount of adults that were in his life. And yes, sadly that did lead to some horrific things happening. Now obviously the parents would have had no idea that it would have led to something so horrific and heinous, but at the end of the day, it is your responsibility as a parent to be aware of what your 13-year-old is doing. Now obviously Zoe did have a massive role in how she got away with hiding their interactions, and a large amount of that absolutely does come down to manipulating Connor, and he actually does then get into that in the next part of this video.
In June, she did kiss me. She did start to get more personal. She would try to seclude me off from my friends, from my family, try to get me away, whatever. Now, if you were on social media back in this timeline, you could see that I defended her for everything she was ever accused for, canceled for, etc. I was so strung up and just trying to process real life, because someone that I'd idolized for years was now living in my hometown, was somebody that was becoming my best friend, someone very close to me. And I was so caught up in just, wow, how is this real, that I wasn't paying attention to what was actively happening to me in the time being.
I mean, there's nothing I can really add here other than this is just so unbelievably sad. This is a person who was once a child that idolized and looked up to someone, and that person took that idolization and used it as a way to take advantage of them. That is so unbelievably sickening, saddening, and disappointing. And to me personally, what this really only shows is, again, this is all so much worse than we originally thought it was, and from this moment onwards, it only gets worse and worse and worse.
And as time went on, things started picking up to a worse and worse level. She would engage in conversations with me, sending me pictures, calling me on the phone, doing things on the phone with me, etc. Now keep in mind, I still was very highlighted by the fact that this girl was in my life, because it was a surreal thing to me that I was too afraid to speak up and have her hate me and wonder where things would end up. And a lot of people ask where my parents were at this time, but growing up, I've been bullied all throughout middle school ever since I was younger. I didn't have a lot of friends, so straight off the bat, my parents thought that this was a good thing, and seeing how happy it made me from the start, that they thought that it would be a good thing for us to become friends and for us to be hanging out, whatever.
Now, I understand what he is saying here about him reassuring his parents, but at the end of the day, this is a 13-year-old child that we're talking about. I think it's the moral obligation of a parent to understand that a 13-year-old child does not know right from wrong. They do not have the life experience to really say if there can be a reassurance on this type of thing. The parents should have acknowledged that what was going on here, again, regardless of if anything happened or didn't happen, if they were just interacting with each other and meeting up, that should have been a breach of boundaries. The parents should have stepped in and not allowed these two to hang out, become friends, because obviously it's a child and a grown adult who have no connection other than one is a fan and one is the person that is idolized. I really, really do not understand how this was allowed to happen, because I fundamentally do believe that all of this could have been prevented if the parents just did a little bit more. And again, I understand that that may come off as harsh to Connor, and I understand that he may think that what I'm saying here isn't the truth, but from what I'm taking from his own words, I just feel that the parents should and could have done more. Now after this, Connor starts to go into more details just in general surrounding everything that went on between him and Zoe Laverne, and this next clip is going to be pretty long, but I feel like you need it for the full context.
Now, I specifically remember there was one specific day that we were hanging out and I was at her house, and she had kind of just thrown herself on top of me and asked me if I was ready. My heart was beating super fast, and I still specifically remember her asking me, "Are you okay? Like, your heart's beating super fast, are you okay?" And I was in a moment of shock. I never thought things would ever evolve to this level. This girl had 20 million followers. I knew she had a career on the line. I always told myself she would never, ever do anything to mess with her career or ruin her career. In this moment, I was in a state of shock. She asked me if I was okay and if I wanted to, and I responded with yes, although my body language was very obvious that I was uncomfortable with the situation. This was a continuous event that continued to happen over and over again. And when things were publicized back in October of 2020, I had talked to authorities and I lied to the police for her. Now, back in October of 2020, when things were publicized on the internet, I did talk to authorities and I did lie to the police because I was heavily manipulated and I was still in a sense of trying to protect her. She had gotten into my brain so deep that she had told me if she went to jail for what she did, that she would off herself. And being only 13 years old, and again, this is someone you idolize and you look up to, that is going to mess with your head. After this, they thought it wasn't a threat, they moved along, and Zoe still tried to pursue a relationship with me because she thought she was in the clear. She would make fake Snapchat accounts to contact with me. My mom cut off contact with us, and she would still make accounts to have desires to speak to me.
Now, obviously, all of this just makes Zoe Laverne look unbelievably and fundamentally terrible. I know she already did before this, but what he is stating here is outright insanity. Basically, Zoe was stalking a 13-year-old child, and there's something that I have actually left out from the previous chapter, which actually coincides with this, that only backs up what Connor is saying here. Because look at this headline here, stating, Zoe Laverne says she misses 13-year-old Connor on live despite backlash. And as you can see here, it's Zoe going into his live stream and saying, "Hi Connor, I miss you," and then she says, "I hope you're doing well, miss you lots," and she even then made a post on her Instagram stating, "Y'all are mad that the situation wasn't as worse as people made it out to be." And yeah, from every single angle, this very much seems to be a grown adult that could not let their attachment to this child go. Even though they have the entire internet against them, their career on the line, they still tried to contact them, despite everything going on. And I think that should say quite a lot to you. This is not a mistake. This is not a situation of someone that accidentally did something wrong. This is a calculated, evil individual that has absolutely caused so much pain and suffering on someone, and I do not understand, once again, how she got away with this. Now, for the rest of the TikTok, Connor basically goes on to speak about how horrific this experience has been, and just in general, how much this has badly impacted him and his family. And again, I know that he will disagree with what I was saying about his family earlier, but obviously hindsight is a wonderful thing. So yeah, maybe we can be a bit more lenient on that. But at the end of the day, there is no denial that this person right here has been absolutely impacted and affected by Zoe Laverne's actions, and he will probably be affected by them for the rest of his life, which he speaks about in these TikToks. And that's such a terrible thing to have to say of, oh, this is going to impact this person forever. But sadly, it's the truth. And I feel like the truth needs to be spoken about, and Zoe Laverne needs to know and realize how much terrible pain she has brought onto other people, and that she should face consequences. But now, as I mentioned earlier, the story doesn't end there, as Connor also uploaded a part 2. Now, in this video, what Connor is speaking about is the receipts surrounding this situation, where Connor posts a large amount of evidence to do with backing up what he was claiming in his original video. And honestly, some of the things that he shows here is just mind-blowing, and really only again makes Zoe look even worse. Because what it starts off with in terms of the first piece of evidence is Zoe seemingly trying to teach others how to lie on a lie detector test, and when you hear the context of what she says, it's just unbelievable.
This video that I'm about to show is a video of her on the phone with mutual friends of mine after everything had happened, and when polygraphs were being threatened for a lie detector test, this was her explaining how to lie on it.
Listen, if you want to lie on a polygraph, all you gotta do is just read, like when they ask you the question, think of the question as them asking, like, did you sleep with your dad? Then your heart won't fucking race. I was like, what the? So I'm just scared that, like, Amber's gonna go live and try to say that Connor and I, like, and then Cody was texting me saying that he has proof that we did and he doesn't. Like, nobody has proof of it. Because we did it in secret.
This right here is her admitting that she indeed did take my innocence, but there was no proof of it because we obviously didn't record it.
I mean, it's just utterly despicable, isn't it? And another thing to take from this, though, is the fact that there were seemingly a lot of people surrounding Zoe Laverne that were fully in the know about what Zoe Laverne was doing with Connor, and they just allowed it and even just laughed along with Zoe when she's speaking about lying on lie detector tests, which is ultimately so much more disturbing because she has been pretty much allowed to get away with this for so long, mainly due to the fact that she has had people that, in my opinion, have protected her, from her mother to some of her friends. It really is sickening. But now, after this, Connor then basically goes on to show a giant wave of evidence of pretty much everything that Zoe has been accused of. And again, what I'm now going to do is basically allow this entire clip to play, and there is a lot of screenshots here that Connor narrates through, and it is a lot.
My messages were on the top, commenting on how Zoe has literally messed me up so bad mentally and destroyed me as a person. And when my friends were gonna come stay here for a week, I was voicing I was scared to spend the night in a hotel with her. This was me texting my friend saying, how do I get myself out of this? I'm very uncomfortable. And also that she let off a little bit and it wasn't as bad as it was before.
By the way, y'all sound kind of stupid when you try to say Connor's dad, because he can't even produce that type of stuff.
Oh my god.
He's not old enough. He's not old enough.
This message was her saying, don't make me your D again, which I think we can all infer what this means.
These were TikToks that she had made directly from her account.
As well as this very disturbing. You guys can pause to read these, but this is her telling me that she's been risking her reputation for liking me and that she doesn't want to go to jail, as well as stressing that there were being other videos sent around of us. Thing weird about this. In this screenshot, you can see that she's laughing about it, saying, ha ha ha, I'm going to jail. Do you guys think prison has designer? Talk that she had made off her own personal phone. Which this right here is another angle of her directly, you know, pulling it up and showing it on FaceTime. This one you can pause and read, but this was her closest friend at the time who literally had stated that she could go to jail for knowing about it and not doing anything, and the top half is covered for privacy and personal reasons.
Now, before I give any analysis on the things that Connor has just gone through, I do just want to read the messages that he is showing there. The messages state, it's been making me cry every night thinking about it. But even everyone I've come into contact with here asks me about you and Connor. I obviously defend you, but it's bad. Now listen, I'm not trying to get in trouble, because if you went to jail for with him, I would go to jail for association for knowing about it and doing nothing. Again, this to me is people protecting Zoe. And even in this case, in my opinion, they're not even looking out for Connor here. They're just doing this because they know that they are complicit and could face consequences. But then the next part states, I thought a lot about how to approach you about this, but I am very uncomfortable with the thought of you with him, because that's mad jail time and it would ruin the rest of your life. Again, to me, this does just seem someone outright protecting their own personal interests, but if there is something that these messages show, it's more just further general evidence that what was taking place here was far worse than we originally thought. This is no longer just a kissing thing, which again is still terrible. It's the worst possible thing. This is someone, through all of the evidence that we just saw, all of the screenshots that Connor just provided, this is someone who is the lowest of the low. This is a criminal, an evil person that should face consequences, but they're not. They've gotten away with it. They have a happy social media career of their family where they can happily post all the things that they want and get millions of views for it. It's disturbing and disgusting. Now after this, Connor then goes on to show even more disturbing screenshots of where Zoe threatens to, well, how do I say this in terms of YouTube TS? She threatens to damage herself, and bearing in mind, she was saying this to a 13-year-old boy. Now, just in general, the whole thing, I'll keep on saying it, it's so disturbing. It really is sickening, because some of the comments were pointing out that they have a brother who is 13, and their baby tooth fell out a couple weeks ago, and this is so insane that they can't imagine their own brother going through this. I'm super angry and disturbed for you. Think of all of the things that you've just seen in those screenshots, all of the things that we've gone through today, and just think, that was a 13-year-old. There's not even a sentence I can say to really describe how horrific this all is. And I truly do feel bad for Connor. He seriously does deserve justice, and I'll say it again and again, but this man has been so unbelievably let down by the people around him, but also the system that was supposedly there to protect him. I can't even comprehend how brave of a person he is for coming out and speaking about this, especially knowing that the system, and particularly the police, have let him down and just done nothing about any of this. This is probably the biggest slam dunk case I think I've ever seen in my time of covering controversial issues on the internet, and yet somehow nothing has happened. Even despite the mainstream media themselves covering this in 2020, it just led to nothing. The story blew up, people were talking about it, evidence was everywhere, and there's even evidence that we didn't even know about, yet the police did nothing. And overall, in terms of what I think that his TikToks will do, sadly, despite how brave and how conclusive they are, I don't think they're going to lead to absolutely anything, which is just so tragic. Now, some of you may be wondering, what is Zoe doing? Has she responded? Is she doing anything interesting on her social media career? Well, like a lot of influencers do when they get exposed for terrible things, she's seemingly found religion and has Jesus in her bio. She says she's thankful for God and that she's got this Jesus glow. And again, I think this is all a calculated move. I'm not saying this as a way to disrespect or discredit religious people or Christians, but there is definitely a noticeable trend of where an influencer or celebrity will do something terrible and then they'll mysteriously then turn to God. And obviously the reason that they do it is because a lot of religion preaches forgiveness, and they probably think that, oh, if I post these things, people might forgive me, which in my opinion is just so unbelievably disrespectful to the people that actually practice those religions and don't use it as a way to get away with heinous actions. Overall, Zoe Laverne has done pretty much everything you can possibly do to make you a terrible person, and I don't understand how she has gotten away with it. This is an utterly despicable story, and the fact that she is still posting is incredibly disturbing. I do not think that she should be allowed on social media, but sadly, TikTok will allow her on here, and she will continue to go about her days with millions and millions of followers. But just to interject here and make the story even worse, it seems that TikTok themselves have actually done their best to censor and silence the victim in this story. As you can see here, Connor posted a TikTok story stating that his part 2 was taken down, and specifically this is the part where plenty of evidence and screenshots are posted to back his allegations and claims. To me personally, this isn't a very good look for TikTok, considering they are allowing Zoe to do whatever she wants on the platform while silencing real victims. And to kind of conclude everything that we've gone through today, this is just yet again another TikTok predator that has gone the way with everything. I want to end this video by kind of just wishing my best thoughts and feelings towards Connor and hoping that eventually he does get justice. I would really appreciate it if you shared this video, get it out there, get the word out there. If you don't want to do that, just go make your own videos about this, make your own posts about this. Let people know that there is a severe danger still on TikTok with 20+ million followers, and God only knows the things that this person has done that we still do not know about. But with that, that is the ending of this video. Thank you very much for coming along. I understand that this was a bit more dark and depressing than the usual videos, but honestly, I thought it was very important to cover this, especially considering that I have covered this multiple times in the past. And yeah, I'd appreciate the support. Please like this video, please comment something down below, and more importantly, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will be providing updates on this story as it develops. But I think this is kind of a good conclusive video to just wrap everything together and really show you how terrible Zoe Laverne is. But yeah, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for coming along. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Bye-bye.